Welcome to the B-Sides and Beers podcast.
Welcome to B-Sides and Beers, episode 54. Tonight we're talking to Isaiah Archer from Whistle Buoy Brewing Co. out of Victoria, BC. What's going on? Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, man. Yeah, good to have you. We've been looking forward to this one, and it's nice to have you on here.
Yeah, cheers. Absolute pleasure.
Are we talking about what we're drinking here? We're not drinking Whistle. Like, we're not drinking your beer.
None of us were able to get any of it around here.
No.
Yeah, that's a tough scenario. I mean, Victoria is definitely the main spot to get it. But what are you guys drinking?
Dane, did you get some? Did you find some?
Oh, I sure did. I sure did. I loaded up tonight.
Yeah.
You know what? I had like this urge to get an imperial stout, and I just couldn't find one that I was happy with. So I found myself a Power Struggle Golden Stout, and I've had a couple of Golden Stouts before, and I enjoyed them. So this is by Twin City.
I had that beer earlier in the week.
Did you?
Yeah.
How'd you like it?
Yeah, interesting. I liked it. I think it's not a style I would normally gravitate to, but man, they do a good job. I'm usually pretty happy with Twin City beers. So they're trying different shit. It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I like it.
where are they out of?
Port Alberni.
Okay.
You got it. Yeah. So, I usually like their stuff, and this one is no different. So, we got a 7.6 ABV. And, I like it. It's a little on the sweet side, but so far, so good. I'm not really sure how that works. Maybe we can get into that a little bit later on, but like a golden stout just means the stuff hasn't been roasted. Or...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're just using malts with a lower lava bond. I believe that's how you say it, but it's just roasted to a lower temperature. It doesn't give the dark color that you're used to seeing in a stout. So that usually throws me off. Usually when I drink a stout, I'm looking for something that is more or less black. This one's golden in color, so it's a bit of a mind bender, but tastes good.
And does it affect the taste at all? Because this does taste like a stout, but like I said, it's a little
so you're not going to get as much bitterness. And I don't know what their recipe was. Those folks do a lot of different techniques and different ways of doing things, and I won't speak to what they were up to with that one, but generally there's less bitterness in the grain itself, and I'm assuming not much as far as hops in the kettle as well. So, but yeah, don't take my word for it on that specific beer. I'm not entirely sure what they did there.
Alchemy.
Yeah,
that's good. I like it.
Yep. Yep. What else you got?
Well, I picked up a Dog Mountain Brewing Red Yeti Red Ale, because I'm getting into red ales again.
Nice. So good.
I'm just like all about red ales, and I don't think I've ever tried anything from Dog Mountain Brewing. I'm sure just like rewind a couple episodes back, and I'm like, yeah, man, Dog Mountain Brewing is the best.
You're representing the Alberni Valley hard tonight.
I would love to do a brew tour there, because there is some great stuff out there. And then, of course, I've got a Yellow Dog, and I picked out a High Five Hazy IPA, and Port Moody. And these guys are always good. I love Yellow Dog. So I don't know if I'll open all these tonight, but that's what I got on my desk right now.
Cool. Nice selection. I'll just follow that up, because I'm only drinking one right now, and it is the Perfect Storm Oatmeal Stout.
Nice.
The Townside Brewing.
So good.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Which is excellent, like really good, and like 5.5%, but like not super heavy, but super tasty, and the can is pretty badass.
Yeah,
Some
their
type
art
of-
is unreal.
Yeah,
They
massive
do a great job
Kraken.
there.
Yeah,
Cedric, the brewer, Chloe, his partner, they own the brewery there. Great people, great beers.
yeah.
Big fan.
They're coming on the show in a couple of weeks too.
Awesome.
So yeah, gonna talk to them. He wants to talk about screamo punk from the 2000s. So we're gonna have some fun with that one.
Stoked for that one.
Yeah. So that's what I'm drinking. So I just wanted to, because you said your golden stout, I'm drinking like the real Oreo, and you got like the golden Oreo.
This could be Girl Guide cookies.
Oh, now you're onto something. Oh yeah. Okay.
There's an idea.
There it is. Yeah. Mike, what you got?
Copyright patent pending.
Yeah. Timestamp that. Timestamp that.
Timestamp it. We own it.
Thursday, March 10th.
I got two tonight. I've got one from Lighthouse Brewing Co. It is one of their limited release white squall white IPA, and that's a 6%. And I've got from Fernie Brewing Co. a Black Mammoth Winter Ale, rich, strong, and decadent. It's an 8%. So stoked for that one. Haven't had one of those before. So
the first one, Mike. Sorry, where's that one from?
Where's Lighthouse from?
Victoria,
isn't it? I was going to say
Victoria,
that.
Yeah,
Victoria.
You've been around in Vic for quite a while now. One of the kind of longer standing breweries in town.
Yeah, I grabbed one of their 8-packs, the Tall Boy 8-packs. They got all IPAs, and two of them were these limited release ones. So,
Sweet.
Yeah.
Isaiah, what are you drinking?
Drinking our Coastality Pale Ale. It's our flagship beer.
Can you tell us about that? Tell us about
it. And how do you choose a flagship beer?
So we basically pride ourselves on not making a lot of the same beer twice. We're a very small scale brewery as far as commercial brewers go. So we brew 800 liters at a time, and we're a taproom focused brewery. So don't have too much as far as distribution goes, but it was by design. So we really tried to play around with a lot of different recipes, but we did want to have a few beers that people could kind of rely on and come back to. And we wanted those beers to kind of represent what we really enjoyed in sort of those solid beers that don't really go to season or don't go to style so much. So obviously, down the middle pale ale, 5%. We basically, there's a pale ale that Boneyard Brewing down in the States has done for a long time. And we were really enjoying that. Actually, the Drake Eatery, one of our neighbors, great craft beer bar here in Victoria, has it's called Bonafide Pale Ale. They were pouring that a lot, and myself and my business partner and our brewer, his name is Matt, we kind of kept reaching for that one. So we wanted to make a beer kind of reminiscent of it. And yeah, so we made our pale ale just nice and simple, but tried to modernize it a little bit. So it's kind of like a North American pale with more juicy character than is traditional. So yeah, just like a larger dry hop, more tropical fruit forward hops. And just like an easier bitterness, something that you can kind of enjoy on a hot summer day, or you can also enjoy in the winter time. So it's kind of our go-to all around beer. And yeah, we're super happy with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Could I see the can there? I'm sure I've seen this in my liquor store before. Maybe not this specific can, but
I don't know.
Your logo's very identifiable.
Yeah. I don't know if we sent beers up to Comox. We've definitely sent kegs to a few restaurants and bars up there a couple of times. We've sent a few to Riders Pizza Session.
Oh, yeah.
And then, as I was saying earlier, to Land and Sea. We often trade guest taps. So sometimes we'll have our beers on tap there at the tap room at Land and Sea. But yeah, this is our go-to. We basically have 2 beers that we make all year round. So it's the Coastality Pale Ale, and the other one is Gula Guben Scandinavian Ale. What does that mean? It's hard to say.
Means awesome.
It's a Swedish golden ale with Sasquatch hops, which are from BC. It's a proprietary hop from British Columbia. So yeah, those are the 2 mainstays, and everything else pretty much changes all the time.
Let's, if I can, Isaiah, let's back it up and reverse this a bit, because we'd like to know too, like how it all got started and how you got to this point where you're making these tasty beers and all these crazy creations. Like, who came up with that idea, and how did that all kind of come to be?
Yeah, the origin story, myself, our brewer Matt, and one of our other business partners, his name is Ewan. Ewan and I had been friends since university and had met Matt through friends of friends in town. We'd all kind of ventured off on different career paths. I had gotten into the brewing industry. I worked at Phillips for a couple of years, kind of cut my teeth there a little bit and learned a lot about the industry, and got into homebrewing at that time, and just kind of fell in love with the possibilities in craft beer and the community. Really found a lot of like-minded people and just really enjoyed what it had to offer. And then I had kind of gone on, taken a bit of a break, and I was working in retail and sales and marketing for like a clothing company. And then Ewan, who is another of our business partners, had experience in sort of commercial real estate and real estate development. And then Matt had just graduated from Siebel, which is like the World Brewing Academy. So he had gone and studied in Chicago and in Munich with this brewing program, and learned a lot of the technical sort of side of brewing. And then he had been brewing at Spinnaker's. And so kind of at that time, him and Ewan and I, all through mutual friends, were playing on a softball team together, and kind of realized that we had a lot of similar interests. And one of those interests was spearfishing. So like free diving. Obviously we're on Vancouver Island, so we're surrounded by the ocean, and just kind of all adventurous, outdoorsy people.
Very cool.
And it's a bit of a niche sport. So when you find other people that like to do it, usually kind of like latch on and try to go line up opportunities to go diving together. It's not something you should do alone. So we had started going on these spearfishing and freediving trips, specifically up in Bamfield, on the west coast of Vancouver Island, about 2.5 hours northwest of Victoria. And we would always enjoy different craft beers after we would go diving together. And we're all kind of at the age in our late 20s at that time, where I think we were looking to kind of shake up our careers a little bit and go after something and try something new. And so just the timing was right as far as where we were all at in our careers, and our common interests, and beer really connected us in a lot of ways. And we kind of started talking about, okay, like what are the possibilities here? And Matt was pitching to Ewan and I about the idea of opening a beer bar that wasn't a distribution brewery, that was like a dope little tap room that had always changing stuff. And it was just like a nice cultural hub, and people could come back to it. And I couldn't quite wrap my head around it at that stage because there wasn't a lot of examples.
Yeah.
So we kind of had heard of a few breweries in Vancouver. Specifically, Brass Neck was like one of the first ones that we had heard of that was doing this, and more or less like proving that the model could work. So we started like looking around and going on some field trips and checking out some of these breweries, and then also poking around at like the regulations in Victoria, like, can this exist legally? And we learned that there was a rezoning bylaw that was happening in Victoria downtown that would allow beer, wine, and spirit production, among many other things that were in there, but to exist in the downtown core as long as they had a retail component. I think it was 65% of the business had to be a retail component. So tap room, something that people could enjoy. It couldn't be a fully industrial business. And so, Matt's idea was all of a sudden seeming like entirely possible. And the more I think we all thought about it, we kind of were like, oh, like this is maybe a real thing. So kind of put a business plan together, and I think we were all just like the timing felt like the right time to jump off and really try something. And then it was like, we don't have any money. So going to a bank and doing that whole financing thing. And we were able to convince some people to fund us, which we're very grateful for. And yeah, that's kind of like how it started, I guess. And then partly way through that process, we realized that we're not just opening a brewery, which I had experience in and Matt had experience in, but we were opening a busy bar and taproom retail business, which would require hospitality and restaurant management experience, which none of us really had. I've bartended in the past, but that's kind of the extent of it. So we have some other friends that did have that experience. Their names are Colin and Nina, and they're also partners in life and in business, which is awesome and challenging at times. But we kind of knew that we needed some skills that we didn't have, and they had them, and they're from out east in Ontario and had lived in Victoria previously, and were looking sort of to come back here. And so we approached them. We needed some money, we needed some skills, and they were ready to meet the challenge. So the five of us sort of joined forces and got to making a brewery. So I think that's kind of the background story.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Can you tell me about the logo?
Yeah, for sure. Naming and creating a logo, that's always a tricky part of the process. I think you kind of have to name it something, right? And we had like a list of 200 things, and we're like, that doesn't seem right. That's good for this reason or that reason or whatever. And then the name Whistle Buoy or Whistle Boy, it depends on where you're from, or like however you say the word, it doesn't really matter, but refers to a nautical float. So basically it harkens back to those experiences that we'd had free diving. So there is an actual whistle buoy out in the water in Bamfield where we had been doing some of these trips. And basically the way that those work is as the swell goes up and down, so does a buoy, and there's a mechanism inside it that actually makes an audible whistle. And they're required because that specific area is in a fog belt. So one minute it's bluebird, and the next minute you can't see your hand in front of your face, kind of thing. So to navigate the sea in that area. That's why those are there. And it also marked a reef that we wanted to dive on. So we were out there diving, and then we did get socked in with fog and couldn't figure out where we were, but the whistle buoy is the beacon that kind of drew us back to where we wanted to go. And kind of what turned from what we thought was a sketchy experience turned into a great one. And we ended up catching a bunch of fish and reminiscing and have continued to go back to that spot. So that's kind of where that part of it came from. And then the logo itself, my brother actually started a ad and design agency in Edmonton. I'm from Alberta originally, but so his agency is called Berlin Communications. And when we were coming up with all this stuff, we didn't have much of a budget. So I kind of asked my brother, hey, can we do a little family discount here? And he saw our passion and that we were serious and we weren't just playing around. And so they were happy to kind of help us with that. So it was cool. Their marketing director at the time came out and visited us. Actually, two of their folks did, and spent a few days with us and just wanted to understand who we were and what we were about and all that. And they wanted to get it right. They didn't want to just do emails back and forth. So they came and we took them to some of our favorite beer bars and did some island activities. They actually were brave enough to get in the water with us and go diving, which is pretty rad on their part. So yeah, that's kind of where it came from. And then the logo itself is a W with a fishtail on one end and a spearhead on the other.
Okay. I couldn't figure. I thought it was like a sea monster or something.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out.
Yeah, it's kind of abstract, so it can be interpreted in different ways.
You kind of see the W in it, and I'm trying to look at different angles to see the B if it's in there or.
Yeah. People have said that wasn't intentional, but the W for sure, and then just the idea of water. Yeah. Just the idea of something bobbing in the water and the line through it kind of gave it that like horizon. So yeah, that's kind of where it came from. Just relates back to our experiences together. And I wanted something super clean, simple, timeless, something that was recognizable. And I thought they did a good job. So
yeah, it looks great. It's a really cool logo.
Yeah, thank you.
And the can art too stands out.
Recognizable.
Yeah, the can art itself, it's very unique, which is very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was cool when they did the art for us. We just, because we knew we were going to be doing so many different beers and we didn't think we'd be able to can all of them.
Right.
Or like we've literally brewed like 130 plus recipes since we've opened, which has been just over 2.5 years. So we've brewed a lot more brews than that, but all that many different recipes, we don't have the capacity to create can art for all those. So it was kind of like, what are things that are generic enough, but we have 15 different ones that you can kind of pick and choose what would make sense with what beer. And we've had many different beers with the same label, but then we have an area where you can write in whatever beer it is.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a sticky note at the bottom of the can. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's a little it's a little low budget, but I think it works well for our concept. So
it looks great. It's unique, man. It's super cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, dig it.
And the can art itself, like who does that? Like,
so again, that's Berlin. Their art director, his name is Pete. And Pete, he used to do art direction for Avenue magazine. I don't know if
we're all from Edmonton, so
yeah. So he's from Edmonton, and he now is one of the partners in Sea Change Brewing Company in Edmonton.
No way.
Yeah. So they're a really rad group of people, and Pete, he's one of the owners, and he does all of their graphic design and art, which they do a crazy amount of, and it's all pretty dope. So big fans of what they're up to. And so him and a team of designers that were at Berlin at the time came up with the initial graphics that we're still using. We're actually heading to Edmonton in May, and we're doing a collab beer with the folks at Sea Change, which we're pretty excited about.
Awesome.
Yeah, totally. But now we also have been doing one-off labels that are a little different for some of our different beers. So we're just starting to reach outside of that original brand package, I guess. A local designer, her name is Kayla Craven. She does a really good job. So she's been kind of doing our updated labels. But yeah, the original ones that we're still using a lot of are still done by Pete.
That's great. I come from a design background, and whenever you can create something that has longevity, you know, it's hard to do. But you know, when you do something that sort of stands the test of time and is recognizable, you know, you've got something special there. So
yeah, totally. Just kind of picking up on classic styles, things that are not too out of the box or trendy, that just are like true to what you're about. I think that was kind of the idea. Just
adds to the brand and adds to the, you know, makes it legit.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I love seeing like classic branding. There's like funny companies that I don't know why I'm shouting this out, but like Canadian Linen Services. They're this random business in Victoria. They're trying to be cool by any means, but their branding is just so classic and so simple, and it just really works for me. And I see like really old school branding like that. It just like gets me excited. So if we can do stuff that's in any way in that vein, then we're pretty happy.
Do you find sorry, I'm just gonna like go off topic really quickly here, but you know, you've got a great product, you have a great story. Do you find that branding is more important, or, you know, very important when it comes to the formula? Like, is it something that you really need to get right in order to be successful in this industry? Because, you know, we take a look at these cans and the artwork and branding is just off the charts on most of this stuff.
Yeah, you know, just one opinion here, but I think it does. It's just so competitive, right? Like everywhere you look, there's thousands of craft breweries within Canada, and then you look at the States and the rest of the world. It's just there's more examples than you can ever look at. And the ones that I'm personally drawn to are the ones that have good design, because it's what draws you in first. And there are OGs that have like really kind of basic design that's from like another era that reputationally do well because, you know, they got in the door before a lot of other breweries did, and had that opportunity for people to discover them. But yeah, I think these days it's difficult to get discovered unless you have some really unique, interesting artwork. Unless you're a taproom community brewery, which we kind of are. We kind of walk a line between that and having small scale local distribution. But then, you know, obviously social media is a big thing these days. And so everyone can kind of see what you're about before they go to your brewery or your tap room. And if they don't like what they see, they might not come. So I think, branding and design is a huge part of it. So, and luckily for me, I'm super passionate about that. So I love working in that field, and it's just like a really nice creative outlet to be able to create new things. And yeah, I think it matters. And we're also in the retail shopping, like the boutique shopping district in Victoria. And for the most part, the businesses that operate down here are doing so on a very high level and are kind of setting a bit of a standard or raising a bar for the others around us in the city and even other cities on Vancouver Island. So I think just to do the space justice of like being in this zone with so many awesome brands that are killing it, like you gotta meet the level, so to speak. So we took that pretty seriously.
Yeah, it's cool too looking at your cans here, where we've talked about this in the past, where you see a change in can art on the shelves, where it went from very simple, basic to over the top, stand out, and then you get a couple that stand out and they're amazing, and then all of a sudden everybody else is coming out with the most noise, the noisiest art cans, and then now it's at the point where it's like, okay, the simple art ones stand out. Instead of it's a complete reverse. It's and I think the simplicity on your cans, having it's cool color, it looks like some sort of, I don't know, like a really really cool wallpaper almost. I don't know, that's the closest I can, the designs, and then the sticky note label at the bottom, and it's just, I don't know, it's simple and classy, and it stands out. I dig it. So
yeah, thanks. We were definitely going for like West Coast natural shapes and forms meet the urban energy and design forward kind of thing that's happening in this downtown district. So like kind of trying to marry those two things, because they were both true to what we were doing. Right. And so that's kind of where we landed with some of our labels.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely see that.
I got two things I wanted to ask you, and one of them is, can you tell us about the NFT beer?
Yeah. I've actually I know for the listener, this is not helping anyone because you can't see this, but this is the can that we put those beers in.
It's a sweet looking can too. It's the golden bullet.
We wanted to look like a gold brick.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Bar. Yeah.
The
very James Bond.
It's very James Bond futuristic.
Wow. That we released that beer a year ago, or I think it was last April. Not for April Fools. It was a real thing. And so I don't know if you guys are kind of privy to NFTs and the whole crypto thing.
It seems like a complete mess.
Obviously a bit of an emerging sector, and some people love it, some people hate it. It is what it is. But I was just intrigued by kind of the idea of rare digital art, the idea of like how collectibles like baseball cards and hockey cards used to be a thing, or Pogs or Pokemon or whatever it is. Yeah. I think that idea has always been in the human psyche, and like how people interact with rare objects is just a very interesting idea. Yeah. We do it in many ways all the time. And so the NFT thing was just like, that's its newest frontier. And it seems to have kind of cracked a bit of a code as far as like utility, or there are a lot of opportunities for it to do that. So I just wanted to learn more about it. And so NFT, non-fungible token, for those who aren't familiar, but basically it's a blockchain backed item that can be identified by a specific piece of code, that everything is unique and it cannot be replicated. And so if you have 10 of a thing, even though they can be copied and saved as a JPEG, that looks like
Take
you
a
have the exact same
screenshot
thing.
and then I'm
You
good.
don't have the receipt or the authenticity certificate.
Yeah.
And again, controversial whether that matters, but
Right.
people tend to place value on that. So we wanted to see what we could do, and and so we made a piece of artwork, a 3D digital piece of artwork that we sold on the blockchain, and then we also made this beer called NFT, which was Nelson, Flex, and Trident. So is an acronym for the hops that we used in it. And we made it an of 200 series of limited beer cans.
So that's what one of those is worth about 200,000 Bitcoin now.
I think they're not really worth anything.
Isn't that how that works?
It was worth something when there was beer in it, but there's not beer in it anymore. So it's a bit of a gimmick, to be honest. But for me, I just took it as an opportunity to use the avenue that we have to try something new, learn about something creative that I was interested in, and we're hoping to release a bunch more this year, actually, just because the field is kind of advancing, and I'm just sort of interested in seeing where it goes and understanding how it all works. So that's really the inspiration behind doing that.
Okay, sorry. The second thing, I just got to jump in here on this too, because I got to ask you, and I think maybe we should lead with this because this is very intriguing. But can you please tell us about BC Beer Mail? Fill us in.
Beer Mail is basically something that we started doing because of the COVID situation. We were looking at, okay, we can't necessarily serve a lot of people in our tap room. So what are distribution channels that make sense for a business of our scale? And distributing wholesale to liquor stores doesn't really make a lot of sense for us. As I mentioned earlier, we brew 800 liters at a time, which is just tiny compared to pretty much any brewery you can name. So yeah, for us, it was about ideally having someone come down to the tap room, experiencing something that they really enjoyed and drinking some beers that they thought were awesome. And then if they were talking about it to their friends back at home, if they're in BC, giving that person an option to be able to access the beers. So that's really what it was about, just kind of creating another channel to get beer to people that made sense within our business model. We try to stay direct to consumer as much as we can. So obviously not wholesaling our product but still giving the people that want it access. So we're lucky that the liquor laws have kind of loosened up a little bit to allow for us to be able to do that. So yeah, basically anywhere in BC, you can order Whistle Boy beer and generally have it within 2 days from ordering. That's sort of the standard. Depends on where you live, but we've actually sent beer to Salmon Arm, and we've sent beer to like the Whistler area. We haven't sent beer too far north, North Island for sure, but
so is it through an app? Is it through your website?
Just their website, just like straight through the checkout stream. So you just go to shop, go to beer. When you're checking out, it's like, do you want to pick it up? Do you want it delivered to your house, or do you want it shipped to your house? And if you're not within 10 Ks of the brewery when you enter your shipping address, it won't give you the option for us to deliver it to your house because our car can't.
Fuel prices are too expensive.
It's super expensive. Yeah.
It's not worth the trip.
Those are
the wheels lock up if you go past 10K. It's like
shopping carts trying to leave the Walmart.
Yeah, it's exactly it. Yeah. This locks right up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's the deal, and it's something we kind of have set up, and it's just rolling now, and kind of fun. But at the end of the day, it only works if someone really wants our beer for good reason. If someone's had the experience, as I was mentioning, or wants to share it with someone that they know, or whatever. And kind of going back to the idea of rarity, that's not what we're trying to do, but by nature of only brewing super tiny batches and always switching beers up, sometimes a beer is only going to be around for 2 weeks. And if someone wants to get it, they're not able to come down to Victoria, you can just order it in the mail and we'll ship it to you. So
Awesome.
it's kind of one of the technology solutions that we're happy to be offering these days.
Well, it's a great
That's great.
idea. I mean, all breweries
we should
be
do
doing
like
that.
a promo type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I would. So if you use the discount code B-sides, if you use the discount code B-sides, we'll give you free shipping. How about that?
Beauty.
Just making this shit up as we go, but I think
Beauty.
There you are.
You'll be getting my order real soon.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at your list right now on the website, and it's like, yeah, I'll take one of those.
It's not active yet, but it will be like tomorrow.
Gotta log in already. Let's get my beer, man.
He said so.
Damn it.
Shipping.
Yeah, well, we'll be uploading this for a couple days here, but yeah, at that point, hell yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a thing. By
Beauty.
that point, that'll be a thing.
Beauty.
What do you got on tap right now? What's flowing?
Yeah. Lots of stuff. We have our standard Coastality Pale Ale and Gulaguben Scandinavian Ale, which are pretty much always around. And then outside of that, we've got lots of interesting stuff. So we have a coffee mild that's basically an English mild ale with Discovery Coffee, which is a local roastery here in Victoria. So that's their Rock Bay coffee blend.
It's a great idea.
And that beer is 3.4%, so super low ABV, tons of flavor. Gives you a bit of a caffeine jolt as well. So nice.
Sounds like a breakfast beer to me.
Yes.
Yeah. And outside of that, we have our Current Swill, which is beer that we have made quite a few times. We use local black currants from Silver Rill Berry Farm, which is up in North Saanich near BC Ferries. And yeah, a woman named Pamela, she owns and farms that property and does an amazing job. And so, yeah, we were lucky to use those black currants. It's just kind of like a standard ale recipe that's super light, and then we just fruit the shit out of it. And the currants have a bit of a tart character to them, so it seems like you are almost drinking a sour beer, but there's no lactoculture in it. So it's just like really nice and fruity and tart, but it's just from the berries. And so it comes a deep crimson color as well. We do have a sour on tap right now. Is our Undersea Goza, a beer we have been making more regularly as well. And that we use kelp from a woman named Amanda. She has a company called Dakini Tidal Wilds, which is out of Souk, BC. So it's on the west coast of the island here. And so she hand harvests kelp, bulk kelp, and we use that kelp to salt the beer. Normally a goza is salted. You also add coriander for traditional goza. So we do add coriander, but we use the kelp to salt it, which gives it like a minerality and kind of a west coast kind of brininess, which is pretty cool. And then we add lemon peel to kind of make it nice and refreshing as well.
Crazy, man. I would never think to use the kelp like that.
Yeah. Part of our MO is just like use what's around us. And so we luckily are in a very productive growing region, and things like that are just pop up. You see local producers doing all kinds of cool stuff. So, yeah, that's one that we found to be really made sense for us. And then what else? We have our Low Vis Hazy IPA, which is a beer we almost always have a hazy on, but we've never brewed the same one twice. So we're always playing around with different combinations of hops. We've pretty much nailed down our grain bill at this point. So generally, the grain is the same, but we have good relationships with a lot of hop suppliers. So we like to use whatever is new, whatever is exciting, try different combinations of different things, different hop products, different new hops that tend to be in the juicier, more tropical, like a lot of thiols, and that you can really extract a lot of really big fruit fruit character out of. But they also tend to have like a nice hop bitterness. So you're drinking an IPA. So we have a really good low vis right now. Yeah, we've got some other stuff on too. Oh yeah, we have a dry Irish stout. We call it the dry Irish stout. Go figure.
Yep.
Nice.
Very fitting for St. Paddy's Day around the corner.
Indeed.
And oh yeah, we have a cherry rosemary saison. So that beer is just a little out there. It's a rustic saison recipe with a bunch of cherries and rosemaries, and it's our brewer Sasha. She came up with that recipe. It's one of hers. So we're stoked, and that's I think our newest release.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm like, hops to me are super fascinating. Do you stick to like a West Coast hop, or like this, because they do have a different taste, like depending on where they're grown, right?
Yeah. So a lot of the hops that tend to come from this area are like the Cascade, Centennial. There's other hops that I'm missing there. The classic like West Coast hops tend to be piney, resiny,
Right.
a little bit bitter, a little bit citrusy, which is kind of like the West Coast IPAs that we all know that are like, for instance, Fat Tug is a really good example of like a West Coast IPA that uses a lot of hops that are kind of like from this area. Chinook is another one, obviously, Amarillo. Some of those are like the more classic hops that you probably experience from this area. And then Australia, New Zealand, and so even in the Yakima Valley, there's a lot of hops these days that are way more out there and have way more like tropical flavors and characters and different, like it can taste like fruit, like it doesn't taste like a hop. So it's pretty amazing like what that plant or variations of those plants are able to do. Like it tastes like you're drinking fruit punch sometimes in like some of the new hazy IPAs that we're making, which is wild. So we certainly don't stick to any sort of like regional blends. That being said, we love to support local producers. So there's a hop farm in Maple Bay Hop Farms.
Oh, sweet.
And they produce some super good, like classic Chinook Centennial Cascade, which we use a lot of, more on like the bittering side, on the hot side. And then when it gets to dry hopping, we tend to go for like the exotic new age hops.
Right. So I've heard this piney West Coast and like mineral-y East Coast, traditional East Coast, but like when you say piney, is that what I am tasting on the palate, or is that what I'm smelling? Both. Am I smelling a Christmas tree, or am I tasting
Yeah. Well, usually like bittering hops, obviously, the thing that gives the beer its bitterness, the backbone of the beer. But and a dry hop tends to be more aromatic, but they can both do both. So you can totally taste a beer that tastes like a pine tree and also smells like a pine tree, or you can taste a beer that has that piney character, but it when you're smelling it, it smells more like a I don't know, like a guava and mandarin and something like that. So it totally depends on the combination and at which period of time in the brewing process you're using which hops. And I'm not even a brewer. I'm someone who enjoys brewing from time to time and has just been around it for a long time. But our brewers could definitely speak a lot more to it. But it's super cool how much there is to hops and the variation among them and the different ways you can extract different flavors at different times and different temperatures and those types of things. So yeah, that's a big subject.
I wanted to ask you too, like we've all kind of come across all of these breweries and even a cidery too, that they have all these like crazy recipes, and they've got like all these different varieties of hops and all these different ingredients, and like how do you come up with that? Like are all these recipes shared like on the blockchain, or is it like or they pass? Yeah,
well, crypto beer these days.
Yeah, like is that like?
Wow, you heard it here first, folks.
You know what I mean? Because it's just
Yeah,
like,
totally.
how do you sit down? You're just like, I'm going to make a recipe for cherry saison, and it's just going to include this and coriander and
51 other.
Like
and
all these
to keep track
special
of it.
herbs and spices, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, well, a lot of it just comes down to trying things that you like and get inspired by. Like we say to our staff, like, if you want to know about beer, you have to drink beer. Like that's the only way you can really get informed by it. Obviously do so responsibly, but like you have to try a lot of beers and that's what you guys are doing. And I'm sure you know more than you're letting on, but the thing is there's inspiration around every corner. And for us, because I said, like, we do live in a super productive growing region, that is a big part of our sort of ethos as well, is to just make sure that anytime we're able to use something that's grown around us, we do that. Especially if it's a super high quality. So we've got a lot of good relationships with local farmers. We make a ton of different sour beers. So we tend to make a lot of like heavily fruited sours, but we don't typically use purees. We use whole fruit. So like we have a raspberry sour coming out next week, which has, I think 150 pounds of local organic raspberries that were frozen over the winter.
Wow.
And it tastes like fruit juice because it is real fruit. So things like that are just like simple, what's around you, what do we have access to, and other than that, like every liquor store has, or a lot of the good independent craft ones have like hundreds of options, so it's really easy to try something and say, oh, I like this but I didn't like that. And so yeah, honestly, inspiration comes from a lot of different directions, and I feel like we have a never-ending well to go down as far as like possibilities for combinations. And the yeast producers and providers are doing really cool stuff these days too, like different yeast strains that do different things that can sort of pull flavors out of hops that you wouldn't otherwise expect. So there's just a lot happening in the industry that gives us kind of access to be able to try new things. So yeah, it's pretty cool. There's a lot of creativity involved.
We were joking last podcast how back in the day it was the yellow champagne.
Mm-hmm.
What do we call it? Kokanee. Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all had
That's
them.
all.
Pilsner.
That's all we really had access to, and now we're talking about like yeast that does special stuff, pulling out. Like it's
wild.
amazing. It's absolutely
it's wild.
amazing.
And then there's other products as well. There's a product that's a trendy product these days called Phantasm, and it's from New Zealand. It's from like, I think it's the northern region of the South Island of New Zealand, and they take grape skins from Nelson Sauvin grapes, and then they grind it down into a powder. And then when you add that to certain beers at certain times, it can pull hop compounds out that just make the hop, certain things in those hops flavors express themselves in ways that otherwise aren't possible. So there's like these really interesting technologies that are starting to become available in the industry that obviously it's very exciting for brewers and for marketers, and for the people that are drinking the beer, because it just makes like crazy interesting flavorful beers. So yeah, I agree. Like when I was in high school and university, I was drinking kind of like, we'll call it like dad beers.
Whatever you could afford.
Yeah, exactly.
Kokanee Gold.
I know. And then
MGD.
and then started drinking like the Phillips beers, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
There's something else. There's something else possible here.
Well,
And now it's like broken wide open, where it's just like beer can be anything you want it to be. Which
science.
There is
science.
no spoon.
yeah, exactly.
Science is awesome. Stay in school, kids.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to.
Yep.
Okay, I want to talk music too, because
Awesome.
Yes, please.
kind of bring this in. Yeah, because you talked about. I noticed when you were talking about your beers, you said Current Swell.
Yeah.
And that's one of the bands that you gave us. So can you talk to us about that and like that connection and about them and just tell us about them.
Yeah, they so Current Swell is like an indie rock band from the island that's kind of, well, it's super well known around these parts. I know they've toured around the world and stuff as well, so I know they get their music out there. But they're kind of like a mainstay of like a lot of the island music festivals over the years. Rifflandia being like the big Victoria one that had been going on pre-COVID times for a long time. So they were always there. Phillips Backyard Weekender, Rock the Shores, Tall Tree. There's other ones, but those guys were always at all those music festivals, and they wail pretty hard, and I think they represent the island really well. And so when we were naming this beer, so Current as in like the ocean current, that's like where their band name comes from. And then Swell, the ocean swell, waves moving up and down. Whereas we called the beer Current with an A, so as in black currant, the fruit, and then Swill as in something fucked up that a pirate might drink.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we just kind of had a little play on words there, and we didn't know the guys in the band prior to naming it that, so we thought we might catch a bit of heat for that actually. But like we wanted them to know that we weren't, it was all in good fun, and like we enjoyed their music and everything. So it was a bit of just like a little marketing play. And so when we released that beer, they were actually having a show. I think it was the Alex Goldwyn Hall here in Victoria. It was a beautiful venue. And we brought a bunch of our cans like to their manager. We like DM them on Instagram, I think, and then drove a bunch of cans out there and like got backstage and we're like, hey guys, like we actually want you to know that we like your music and we're not pulling your chain. Like here's a bunch of beers. Yeah. And they since they were super receptive and loved it. And we were just big fans of their music, and they've since told us that they're fans of our beer. And so just kind of like a nice little local connection that we made. I was actually messaging Scott, the front man in the band, before I jumped on here with you guys, and just kind of asking what's good with their band and if they have any new tour dates or anything like that. And I guess him and his partner just had a child, and so they're kind of laying low right now. But I know they're recording music, so we'll see when some new stuff comes out from them. But always love their music, and you can find it everywhere on all the places that you can find music.
Yeah, which is amazing, right? Like,
that's,
back in the day, if you didn't have the CD, you didn't have access to it. So
totally. Yeah.
Search it in 2 seconds.
That's a lot more accessible these days.
Yeah. And Carmana.
Yeah.
Tell us
another sort of local connection, similar sort of thing, actually. They too tend to rock the local circuit and represent kind of like the island lifestyle, kind of like laid back folk rock, beautiful harmonies, really good.
It's super chilled out. Yeah,
and it's very chilled out. Yeah,
it's very present in
kind
both
of music
bands.
that you would hang out in a cabin on the West Coast and just relax to. But they can also get down and make people dance as well. So We are actually booking them for our first so it's our third birthday party, but it'll be the first time we've hosted it because of the COVID situation. So
Right.
it's coming up in June, and we're calling it Whistlemania, and
Cool.
should be a lot of
I
fun.
got a belt ready and everything.
So yeah, Market Square has a huge outdoor courtyard, so we're having hopefully about 450 person event, a bunch of live bands throughout the day. There might even be some live wrestling in there. We'll see what happens. But Carmana is the first band that, yeah, we got them on the books, and yeah, they did put out a new album recently, and one of their band members, Graham, actually reached out to us and was just like, hey, we love your guys' beer and what you're up to, and if you want to use our music and any of your ads or anything, like, we'd be happy for you to do that. And I was like, are you kidding? Like, we're big fans of yours. So it was kind of a cool little connection where we loved their music, they loved what we're up to, and so looking forward to hopefully collaborating on some stuff with them in the future. But yeah, they're definitely going to be doing a lot of shows this summer as well. So, just stoked to see some live music again, and those are two of the bands that we know we'll be checking out this summer.
Very cool.
And female vocal too, right?
Yes.
Like just something that just like,
and the harmonies of it is solid, and it's cool too. I'm not really into the genre of either of those bands personally, but I found myself, I've given it a couple front to back spins, and
nice.
It's solid.
Yeah,
and I really like it. It just feels like you're on a oceanfront sort of genre. I mean, it's really chill. Well, going back to like Current Swell, it's more, really chill Jack Johnson sort of surf vibe kind of a thing. And then the other one, it's very similar, just the feel of it. Like, you can tell you're chilling out on a beach, and
I think they capture the idea of the place really well in their music.
Exactly.
The feeling of being on the island and just experiencing nature or hanging out with good friends, and it's kind of the island vibe is pretty laid back. So I mean, I think the music tends to reflect that. Yeah.
And how fun would it be to be in that band, to be at that level of fame, to just kind of go up and down the island and just play like that, and just
they're like definitely royalty in these parts.
Yeah,
I would say it's
solid, huge.
It's probably Current Swell, Carmana, and like John and Roy. Those are like, off the top of my head, I would say those are the three groups that, if you're talking about Vancouver Island music, that's fairly mainstream. Those are the ones that they're doing it. Everyone's seen them. Everyone will go see them every time they play.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's awesome. But it was funny too, because I didn't really know any bands from Victoria for the most part, other than Spirit Box.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with them at all, but it's metal.
Yeah.
It's a metal project, and it's basically the guitar player and singer are like a husband and wife, and then there's and initially they came from a band called I Wrestled a Bear Once.
I love it.
And it's super cool, and I've been following them for quite some time, and then getting into Spirit Box in the past probably 2 years. It's something different. I was never really into female metal vocalists, mostly because they tend to sound they tend to try to sound like a male vocalist, right. And with this, it's like she goes from the very really chill, flowy to the screams, and it's super cool. And I mean, like, it's really the only band that I've known that has come from Victoria, so it's kind of a cool angle going from
Nice.
The
Yeah,
two
and
genres.
I don't want to claim to represent Victorian music at all. There's so much happening in the scene here that I'm not privy to. There's like DJ shows happening every night, and there's a lot of like underground indie bands that are really killing it these days. And there's definitely like a metal and punk scene here as well. There definitely, it used to be probably a bit more of a thing when, like, I don't know if you guys have heard of Logan's, but Logan's was a venue here in Victoria that was kind of iconic for a lot of those punk and metal shows that unfortunately just didn't make it through the COVID times, which is a bummer. But
I heard they just recently closed.
Which sucks. But yeah, I mean, there's venues that are opening up real quick here. It's all happening. So like mask mandates are dropping tomorrow. And
it's like tonight. Crazy.
Like I went to my first proper live show in 2 years on Friday. Went to Lucky Bar and like watched a DJ set, and it was just being in the room with a live performance with a bunch of other people was epic. And
super weird.
I think the scene's about to explode. Everyone's doing shows as much as they can. We're
ready for
it's
it.
Awesome. Everyone's pretty excited.
Isaiah, thank you so much for joining us. This was fantastic. We appreciate it, and we learned a lot again. There's so much that you say that we know more than we think, but I don't know about that. Like
we don't.
I don't want to
Every
speak for the
episode
rest of
we
these
learn.
guys, but I'm learning something new every single time I'm doing
Every
this.
time.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah,
well, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. It was awesome. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. And, be great to meet you guys in person sometime. So hopefully if you make it down to Victoria, please come say hi.
I'm going to get these boys out for an island tour.
Make it happen. Definitely.
Yeah, it has to happen.
Yeah. Well, that sounds amazing.
All right. We want you guys to subscribe, share, and review this podcast. Keep it going. Keep it strong, because we're having a great time entertaining you guys with B-Sides and Beers podcast.